Once, these products were meant to be the future. They were marketed as revolutions. The media called them breakthroughs. People truly believed their life was about to change. But when some of them arrived, the world wasn't ready. Others slowly faded away and disappeared completely. So what went wrong? 1. Google Glass. In 2013, Google put a computer right on your face, and people called it an invasion of privacy. Think about it. The tech giant didn't get the future wrong. Society wasn't ready. Google Glass launched in 2013 as one of the most ambitious tech products ever released. The device projected a heads-up display in front of the user's eye, allowing them to take photos, record video, search the internet, and get navigation. Google's co-founder, Sergey Brin, personally championed the project, and the company hyped it as the next leap in human-computer interaction. The tech world was thrilled. Early testers called it the first step into the future. But the moment Glass hit the streets, everything flipped. People were deeply uncomfortable with the idea that someone next to them could be recording without any visible sign. Glass wearers were mocked and labeled glasshole. Restaurants and bars outright banned the device. A few incidents of people being physically confronted for wearing glass made headlines. Privacy concerns snowballed into a full-blown cultural backlash. The $1,500 price tag didn't help either. It made glass feel like an expensive experiment, not a real consumer product. Google quietly pulled the consumer version in January 2015. But the story didn't end there. The company redesigned glass specifically for enterprise and industrial use. Today, factories, warehouses, and surgical teams use descendants of glass to display instructions, record procedures, and boost productivity in environments where privacy is not an issue. Google Glass didn't truly fail as a technology. It failed as a consumer product because it launched into a society that simply wasn't ready to accept it. 2. Facebook phone, HTC first. Facebook made an actual phone in 2013. Why? Because to use your phone, you had to go through Facebook first. Yes, this was a real product, not a joke. In 2013, Facebook partnered with HTC to release the HTC First, a smartphone built entirely around Facebook. The real product wasn't the phone hardware, it was Facebook Home, an Android overlay that completely took over your device. Lock screen, home screen, notifications, everything was Facebook. The idea was that Facebook had become so central to daily life that it made sense to build an entire phone experience on top of it. Facebook Home was also available as a free download on other Android phones, but the HTC First was the dedicated hardware. The logic seemed solid. Facebook had over 1 billion active users at the time. People spent hours every day scrolling, reacting, and messaging. Mark Zuckerberg's vision was to turn Facebook from just an app into the operating layer of your life, a platform that followed you everywhere. If Facebook owned the home screen, it owned your attention in a way no other company could. But it was a disaster. Users felt suffocated immediately. Pulling up any other app meant digging through Facebook first. Constant notifications made the phone feel intrusive and manipulative. App developers weren't happy either. Facebook Home pushed their apps into the background. The HTC First became one of the most mocked gadgets on Amazon, with brutal reviews. Facebook Home was quietly pulled within months. It remains one of the sharpest lessons in tech. Just because people use something every day doesn't mean they want it running their entire phone. 3. Nokia N-Gage. Nokia built a phone and a gaming console in one device back in 2003. The problem? To make a call, you had to hold it sideways, right up to your mouth. In 2003, Nokia launched the N-Gage, a hybrid device that was both a mobile phone and a handheld gaming console. The concept was genuinely brilliant. One device in your pocket for both communication and entertainment. Nokia was already the king of mobile phones, and the company wanted to break into portable gaming. The N-Gage was designed to challenge the Nintendo Game Boy Advance. Nokia believed that combining phone and console would give it an unbeatable edge, something no rival could match. But the design was a catastrophe. The device had a tall, narrow screen, a compromise that worked poorly for both gaming and phone use. The most notorious flaw: to make a call, you had to hold the N-Gage horizontally, flat against your face, because the antenna was built into the side. It looked completely absurd. Nobody wanted to be seen on the street talking into a sideways rectangle, and the mockery was instant. There was another critical hardware flaw. Swapping game cartridges required flipping the phone over, opening a back panel, removing the battery, and powering down entirely. It made casual gaming feel like a chore. Nokia later released the N-Gage QD to fix these issues, but the damage was already done. Game support never materialized, sales stayed low, and Nokia killed the N-Gage in 2005. The sharp irony: about 20 years later, mobile gaming completely overtook traditional consoles. Nokia had the right idea, just the completely wrong execution.
4. Palm PDA. Back in the 90s, you could carry a tiny computer in your pocket. You wrote on it with a stylus, and that little device? It's the ancestor of every smartphone you use today. Palm entered the scene in the late 1990s as one of the true pioneers of the PDA, Personal Digital Assistant. The Palm Pilot launched in 1996 when pocket-sized computers were still a genuinely novel idea. It had a small monochrome screen, a stylus for input, and apps for notes, calendars, and contacts. Clunky by today's standards, but at the time, it felt like the future. For the first time, people could organize their personal and professional life in a device that fit in their pocket. Palm Pilot was an instant hit among tech enthusiasts. Small, fast, and genuinely useful. Palm refined its lineup quickly. The Palm V brought a sleeker design. The M500 added color screens. Third-party developers flooded the platform with apps, games, productivity tools, early ebook readers. At its peak, Palm had millions of loyal users and was one of the most talked-about gadget brands in the world. Then, in January 2007, the iPhone arrived and rewrote everything. Apple packed notes, calendar, contacts, web browsing, a stunning touchscreen, a phone, and a music player into one device. Carrying a PDA and a separate phone suddenly felt absurd. Palm fought back with the Pre and Pixie, genuinely well-designed phones, but they couldn't match the iPhone's momentum. HP acquired Palm in 2010 and shut down its product lines. Palm pioneered the very idea of a computer in your pocket, but it was ultimately erased by its own descendants. 5. Pager. In the 80s and 90s, there was one device people used for urgent communication. It buzzed when someone needed you. It was called a pager, and most people today have never owned one. The pager, or beeper, was one of the most important communication devices of the 1980s and 90s. A small, clip-on gadget worn on a belt or kept in a pocket. When someone needed to reach you, they'd dial your number and punch in a short message, usually a phone number or a code. The pager would buzz or beep. You'd find the nearest phone and call back. Simple, one-way, and limited. But in an era before cell phones, it was revolutionary. Pagers started as professional tools. Doctors on call, firefighters, paramedics, couriers, they all relied on them. Reliability was everything, and pagers delivered. But by the late 80s and early 90s, pagers had become a social phenomenon. Teenagers adopted them as a status symbol. Having a pager meant you were connected. Pager culture was massive across the US, Japan, and many other countries. Kids developed shorthand codes, numeric combinations that meant, "Call me back," or "Where are you?" Then, cell phones arrived, and pagers became instantly obsolete. A mobile phone could call, text, and eventually browse the internet. Everything a pager did, and far more. Two-way, always on, no payphone needed. Pager usage cratered through the early 2000s and vanished from everyday life by mid-decade. Today, pagers exist almost exclusively as a historical relic, with one notable exception. Some hospital systems still actively use them, not out of nostalgia, but because in critical emergencies, pagers remain more reliable than cell networks, which can overload during large-scale crises. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.